What is vagus nerve stimulation, and why does everyone seem to be doing it now? Hundreds of thousands of health experts and biohackers are now using these devices to improve sleep and calm their nervous system. And Bryan Johnson, the millionaire who's trying to live forever, even claims it's helped him reverse the biological age of his heart rate variability by 12 years. But are vagus nerve stimulators actually the real deal? To find out, I zapped my own vagus nerve with electricity twice daily for over a year. So now I can tell you exactly what VNS did and didn't do for me, which vagus nerve stimulators are actually worth the money, and how to avoid a major and common mistake that could actually make VNS not work for you or even make it straight up dangerous. But as a general rule of thumb, I always like to do some research before I send any amount of electricity through my nervous system. So I spent over 40 hours reading about the science behind vagus nerve stimulation. Don't worry, I can sum up everything you need to know in less than 2 minutes. Basically, the vagus nerve is the longest parasympathetic nerve in our body. It runs from our brainstem down through our neck, chest, and gut, and it controls our rest and digest functions like sleep, digestion, sleep regulation, and so on. So you've probably heard of fight or flight mode, that feeling of heightened stress, anxiety, or alertness you might feel, say, during a job interview. It's the vagus nerve that's responsible for pulling us out of that alert state and getting us to chill. But our vagus nerve does a lot more than just calm us down. It also regulates our heart rate, digestion, inflammation, immune response, mood, sleep, and even modulates pain. So the idea with VNS is that by stimulating our vagus nerve regularly, we can improve vagal tone, sort of like how a muscle becomes stronger the more we use it at the gym. And with consistent training, this should make our vagus nerve better at its job, so it becomes easier for us to switch into that calm, regulated rest and digest mode. But the real question is, do medical professionals actually agree with all this? Well, interestingly enough, vagus nerve stimulation is more than just a recent influencer trend. Vagus nerve stimulation was first approved by the FDA for drug-resistant epilepsy in 1997, treatment-resistant depression in 2005, and just last year for rheumatoid arthritis. But when VNS first came out, it started as a surgical implant. So patients would literally have electrodes wrapped around the vagus nerve in the neck, working a bit like a pacemaker, but for the brain rather than the heart. And over 100,000 people have gotten that implant worldwide, so it's definitely legit. But now, thanks to basically capitalism, brands like Pulsetto, Truvaga, and Sensate have figured out a way to stimulate the vagus nerve through the skin, or transcutaneous VNS. No risky surgery or prescription required. And there are 3 kinds of transcutaneous vagus nerve stimulators on the market right now. Some target the main vagus nerve trunk through the neck, some target a branch in the ear, and some use vibration instead of electrical current. They're all good in their own way, but I personally prefer the kind that are used on the neck with actual electrical impulses over vibrations, because to me, the neck just makes the most logical sense as a direct path to the largest part of the vagus nerve. And while some people who are super sensitive to electricity might prefer the vibrational devices, most of the clinical research I've seen has been done using electrical stimulation, not vibration. So I just prefer to keep it by the book. Now, are any of these TVNS devices as effective as surgically implanted VNS devices? Probably not, because the stimulation is a bit weaker and less direct. But they're a hell of a lot cheaper, way less invasive, and a growing body of clinical research shows that they can measurably activate the parasympathetic nervous system and increase HRV. Plus, there are entire online communities full of people claiming these devices have helped them with chronic pain, insomnia, panic attacks, and more. The trick is finding a device that actually works and not just getting scammed by some sketchy brand selling a glorified taser. So I tested all the most popular vagus nerve stimulators, and I definitely have a few favorites. I'll link to the exact device I used for most of this experiment down in the description, along with an affiliate discount code. That way, if you want to just skip ahead and grab one, you can. But I do think the rest of this video is worth watching first to make sure VNS is actually right for you, and to make sure you're doing it safely and correctly. With that said, let's talk about what VNS did and didn't do for me after a year of regular daily use. Because going into this experiment, my goal was to improve my HRV, my sleep, and my stress and anxiety levels. But some of the other use cases for VNS, like chronic pain or digestive issues, don't really apply to me, so I'm not the right person to speak to those. I mean, a little dairy will mess me up, but that's a job for Lactaid, not vagus nerve stimulators. The first benefit I saw from VNS was to my sleep. Now, I wouldn't say I'm someone who has a hard time falling asleep at night, but I do have a hard time getting out of bed in the morning. So within a day or two of stimulating my vagus nerve, I started noticing that I would wake up, like weirdly enough, just like a few minutes before my alarm clock would go off consistently. And I'd just feel awake and ready to start the day. But when I'd stop VNS for a few days, I'd be right back to hitting snooze 5 times in the morning. So it seems to me that VNS has had some positive effect on my circadian rhythm and helps me maybe achieve deeper, more restful sleep. Then over a longer period of time, after like maybe a month, a little bit more than a month of regular use, I started to see an increase of about 10 to 15 points to my average HRV. Now, Bryan Johnson has naturally low HRV and claims that his doubles from using vagus nerve stimulation devices. Mine is already quite high, usually around like 100 or so, which is probably why I didn't see an increase as dramatic as his, but I'm still very happy with the improvement because this means my body is recovering and handling stress better than usual. And the other big tangible benefit I noticed from VNS was with situational anxiety. So I think I'm a very introspective person with effective coping mechanisms. I used to have a lot of panic attacks and anxiety as a teenager, but I really got that under control as an adult. But still, every now and then there's an uncomfortable situation I'll get a little anxious about, and I did feel a bit better whenever I do a quick 10-minute VNS session beforehand. But one area VNS fell short for me was with regard to increasing focus and mood. Because some people say VNS helps them a lot with this, but I would not say I noticed a very significant improvement to focus or mood. I would say at best, there might have been like a mild increase, but even that is a little bit like, is that placebo, you know? But I think it's really important that anyone considering buying any vagus nerve stimulator sets their expectations properly. Because while VNS definitely can be a powerful and effective way to improve nervous system health and your body's ability to handle stress, it's definitely not a magic bullet. And it's not meant to replace positive lifestyle choices like exercise, a healthy diet, therapy, and sunlight. Overall, I did have a largely positive experience with VNS, at least for the use cases that applied to me, but there are some real potential dangers of VNS to consider, plus some mistakes you're definitely going to want to avoid making. So first, and this is serious, VNS is not safe for everyone. If you have a pacemaker or implanted cardiac device, or if you're pregnant, or even if you have certain health conditions or epilepsy, do not use one of these without talking to your doctor first. The electrical stimulation can interfere with implanted devices, and that's not something to mess around with. Second, there's a big mistake a lot of people make when using vagus nerve stimulators, and that's not choosing the correct intensity setting. So setting the device too high can cause uncomfortable muscle spasms in your neck or surrounding area, but if you set it too low, you're almost definitely not going to see the results you're hoping for. So with any device, I recommend starting at a low setting, like as low as you can, and then gradually increase that intensity over sessions until you find your sweet spot. So if you've been on the fence about trying VNS and you're wondering what the best options are for getting started, here's my honest recommendation after a year of testing. For most people, I'd probably recommend starting with a neck-based stimulator because of how easy to use and effective they are. I'm really happy with the one I've been using, so I'll drop a discounted affiliate link down in the description if you want a great deal on the same one, because I've tested all the best vagus nerve stimulators on the market, and that one down below is my favorite. But if you want a full breakdown of how all the top devices compare, I've actually got a dedicated video on that as well. So you can check that one out right here. And if you have any questions about getting started, I'll do my best to answer them down in the comments.